UFC Vegas 112 takes place this weekend, and in this video I'm going to be giving you my exact predictions for how I think every fight on the card is going to play out. So without further ado, let's get into the picks. As always, I like to look at my past week's performance to see what we can improve upon, and at UFC 323 we made out like bandits. We went 9-4 on picks. We had Guskov. That fight went to a draw. He nearly got the knockout in round 2 over Blachowicz, but ultimately we had a draw there. We also had Terrence McKinney round 1. He was looking good. It was a battle of chinny guys, but it turns out Chris Duncan's Scottish chin was enough to withstand McKinney in the first minute, so there's that. I also had Marvin Vettori by decision. He's got no power. He's got no wrestling anymore. Not really sure what Vettori can do in the future. Not really sure how he can win fights in the future. We also had Ivo Aslan, round 2 KO. Nearly knocks out Iwo. Everyone was roasting me for the Ivo Aslan pick, but watch that fight back. Ivo Aslan made it extremely competitive as a plus 160 underdog. I don't hate that pick in hindsight. We also had Alexandre Pantoja by sub. I feel like he would have gotten the sub if the fight lasted longer than 10 seconds. Freak injury. Not sure how I'm supposed to predict that. It is what it is. As for the wagers, we were profitable. Piles. Mega piles. Plus 11.44 units. We smacked on Mansour Abdul Malik by sub. I was saying it in my wagering video. That price was mispriced. We take advantage of it. We had Peyton Talbot by decision. We also had Peter Yan, money line. Everyone was roasting me for that as well. I'll take the roast. It turns out when I get roasted more, that's when the pick hits better. It just is what it is. I want the hate. I kind of need it because when I feel it, I know that I'm not on the sheep side. When I'm not on the sheep side, I think my money is in a good place. We also had Manuel Torres, plus 180, a criminal line for a guy that finds the round 1 knockout. Loved all the wagers, loved all the picks. Let's see if we can bring it all together one last time in 2025 for UFC Vegas 112. Let's get it. First fight on the card is Tereza Bledá taking on Jamey-Lyn Horth. Tereza Bledá, she's got a 2-inch height advantage, 5-inch reach advantage. She's going to be 11 years younger than Jamey-Lyn Horth. So for all those reasons, you should just immediately be taking Tereza Bledá in this matchup. However, she has not fought in over 2 years. Now, normally when someone hasn't fought in 2 years, that's a problem. But since Tereza Bledá is only 24 years old, I'm expecting she's going to come back to the octagon with new wrinkles to her game in that time. Also, she's pulled out of her last 2 fights from injury. I don't like that either. She could have a lurking injury heading into this fight as well. But if she's taken that much time off, I can only assume that she's going to be here healthy and ready to go. So I'm ignoring all those factors mainly. And I think when these guys match up in the octagon, Tereza Bledá is going to be way bigger. She's going to impose her will way better than Jamey-Lyn Horth. Tereza Bledá, she might not have the best striking, but if she can get the takedowns going in a smaller Apex cage, I think she will do what's needed to win. She can potentially find the sub. She's got decent ground and pound to find the TKO on the ground. So for all those reasons, I'm going with Tereza Bledá. First fight of the night to win by decision. Not going too deep into this. It's women's MMA, and it's 2 women that probably won't sniff a title shot or the rankings anytime soon. So Tereza Bledá, the favorite it is. Next fight on the card is Alan Frye taking on Guilherme Pat. Guilherme Pat, this guy is an Adonis. He is jacked, he is shredded, he is huge. Now, what I am tentative about Guilherme is we've seen jacked, big Brazilians enter the UFC before only to just get instantly chinned. When you watch Guilherme's fight footage back, he has tall man defense. I hate that. He just leaves his chin in the air. I think a guy like Alan Frye could take advantage of that, could find the chin of Guilherme Pat. But I will say, Guilherme Pat has fought the better brand of competition. Alan Frye, his last few fights have been taking places in shopping malls against truck drivers. Not sure how I'm supposed to trust Alan Frye when that's the case, when we have Guilherme Pat, who's gone more than 1 round. He's gone more than 2 rounds. He's found finishes in round 3 in the past. I just simply think Guilherme Pat has a deeper bag than Alan Frye. Guilherme Pat has not fought in 15 months. That is a concern. But think about it like this. Guilherme Pat was scouted to fight in the Contender Series a couple weeks ago. Alan Frye, he's coming off of nothing. He didn't fight in the LFA. He's not coming from tough. He's not coming from a good promotion. Guilherme Pat, at least, was scouted for the Contender Series. So for those reasons, I'm going to go with Guilherme Pat to win this fight by round 1 KO. It is a little concerning. He did open up as the underdog, but it seems all the sharps are pounding Guilherme Pat. He was plus 175. Now he's minus 175. So I'm going to go with the wagering lines and pick Guilherme Pat. Next fight on the card, we got Luana Santos taking on Melissa Croden. If this fight were to stay standing, who would win the fight? Well, I think Luana Santos' striking is very underrated. I think because she lost to Casey O'Neill in a fight that mainly took place on the feet, people are just simply writing off Luana Santos. But I will say, that fight, I believe, took place at flyweight, which is a whole weight class below where Luana Santos is fighting now. Number 2, Casey O'Neill's actually good. She's actually good. She's actually good on the feet. She's actually good in the grappling. So Luana Santos was fighting that on, I think, like 2 or 3 weeks' notice. I don't blame her for looking as poor as she did against Casey O'Neill. Now, against a girl like Melissa Croden, Luana's going to be 9 years younger. She has plenty more UFC experience since Melissa only has 1 fight in the UFC. Both girls can mix in takedowns, but the thing that is making me lean a certain way is Melissa Croden is 0-2 to the decision. She's only ever won by finish. It does not seem like she's a good minute winner. She's more of a good moment winner. And I think against a girl like Luana Santos, I think Luana Santos will land more on the feet. I think Luana Santos will have success with the takedowns. And if both of those things happen, I think Luana Santos will ride her way to a decision victory. So I'm going with Luana Santos to win this fight by decision. I mean, she's 9 years younger. She's going to be quicker on the feet. Melissa Croden, she does have a lot of advantages in the height and the reach, and she's on a 3-fight winning streak, and if she were to make a run in the UFC, it would have to be now, whereas Luana's 25. She's still got a lot of years ahead of her. I can understand all that, but at the end of the day, Melissa Croden, I've watched back her fights. She's getting chinned and wobbled in a lot of them. So if Luana lands a big shot, she can turn the round in her favor. If she goes for takedowns, she can win rounds that way. And ultimately, I think she has the finishing upside to even finish a girl like Melissa Croden. So give me Luana Santos. Next fight on the card is Sean Sharaf taking on Steven Asplund. Sean Sharaf, the only reason we know him is because he is a Junior Tafa victim. If you're losing to Junior Tafa in the UFC, I just can't pick you to win a fight in the UFC. You watch back that fight, though, Sharaf was having a lot of success early. In the first 2 minutes, it's going to look pretty close in this fight, I think. I think Sean Sharaf, he's going to have the good boxing. He's going to have good power. He's got good accuracy. He can mix in takedowns. All of these things go against a guy like Steven Asplund. So I do think Sean Sharaf will have success, at least in the first round. But as this fight progresses, if it gets to round 2, Sean Sharaf is going to be completely cooked, in my opinion. Steven Asplund is huge. So if he does get taken down, there is a chance Sharaf can ground and pound. But I've seen Sharaf on the ground. He doesn't really have good submission abilities. So if he's not going to be able to find the sub on Asplund in round 1, and I don't think he can ground and pound his way to victory either, I don't really see how Steven Asplund loses this fight. So I'm going to go with Steven Asplund. 2-inch height advantage, 1-inch reach advantage, 5 years younger, throws with more power, throws with more volume. All of those reasons is to take a guy like Steven Asplund. I'm going to say round 2 KO. Next fight on the card is Neil Magny taking on Yaroslav Amosov. Trust me, when I first broke down this fight, I was looking for every reason to take Yaroslav Amosov minus 400. Because when you first look at this, you're like, wait, Neil Magny, underdog against a guy making his UFC debut. something must be off because the bookmakers continue to do this and continue to be wrong. Well, I look back at the tape for Amosov. This guy doesn't really throw with power. He doesn't really throw with volume. He's mainly a grappler, mainly a wrestler. Against Magny, you might have success wrestling and grappling him in the first round, maybe even the second round. But if Magny just survives the early takedown onslaught in round 1 and in round 2, I think the tide will turn in his favor as the fight progresses. We've seen Yaroslav knocked out in round 3 before after his takedowns weren't working against J.C. Jackson. I'm not sure why Magny can't do the same thing. I'm not saying Magny has this otherworldly power in his hands, but Magny has a way of gassing out his opponents. He clinches them to infinity. He's a clinch merchant. He's a round 3 merchant. He's a come-from-behind merchant. This guy knows how to tire people out. And against a guy that's mainly a wrestler and mainly a grappler, it almost seems too perfect to take Magny by round 3 sub. Once again, we're going with the Magny round 3 method. I would only really pick against Magny if he was going against someone that I think could potentially hurt him on the feet. I didn't see enough from Yaroslav on the footage to think he can do that. And Magny has every other advantage. 4 inches taller, 5 inches longer, way more UFC experience. He has a little 2-fight winning streak going, so maybe he can make an return to the rankings at some point. And I think this is a fight where if Yaroslav's not getting the early finish, it's going to look very sketchy. So give me Magny in a very, very sketchy fight. Next fight on the card is Joanderson Brito taking on Isaac Thomson. Odds are not available yet for this fight, but I can only assume Isaac Thomson taking this fight on 4 days' notice will be the underdog. It's very simple. Joanderson Brito is going to shoot for takedowns early and often. If he does not find the sub in the first round, this fight will look very 50-50. And I just don't think Thomson, who's never been subbed, will just get easily subbed in the first round. He's got a KO loss. I don't think Joanderson Brito is going to knock out Thomson. He also has the decision loss. And if we know anything about Brito, if fights go to decision with Brito in them, more often than not, it's a very, very close decision, very 50-50. So if Brito's not finding the finish in round 1, as the fight progresses, in my opinion, I think it will look closer and closer and closer, and I think that's enough to take the underdog, Isaac Thomson, to win this by decision. You might be saying, Finns, this is a horrible take, but I will say, if Brito does not get the round 1 finish, Isaac Thomson, who's knocked out Larry and Douglas, who's in the UFC after winning on the Contender Series, and, if he can land some good shots on Brito, if he can shoot for his own takedowns offensively, and he's also bigger than Brito, I think Thomson has a very good path to victory here. Next fight on the card is Amanda Lemos taking on Gillian Robertson. Gillian Robertson, she's going to be 8 years younger. She's going to be 1 inch taller. She's on a 4-fight winning streak, so her stock in the UFC is pointing up. She mixes in 3+ takedowns per fight, and Lemos, we've seen her get controlled by Tatiana Suarez in her last fight. She got absolutely dominated on the ground by Weili Zhang. She got absolutely dominated on the ground by Verna Jandiroba. She is a southpaw fighting Gillian Robertson, who's orthodox, so the single leg takedown is going to be way easier considering her foot is going to be in front of Gillian. All she has to do is scoop it up. Also take into account this is taking place in the apex, smaller cage, more advantageous for the grappler. Everything here points to a Gillian Robertson win by submission. I don't know how free this can possibly be. Obviously, if Gillian doesn't get the takedowns going, this will look a lot closer than the odds suggest. But Gillian Robertson minus 200, those are good odds. Lemos could shoot for takedowns. That is a possibility. And considering Robertson has a 41% takedown defense, that could be a path to victory for Lemos. But I'm not going to pick someone based on a what if. I know Robertson's going to go out there and shoot takedowns. I know Lemos looks bad when people shoot takedowns on her. So give me Gillian Robertson. I like her to win by sub. I like her by ground and pound, potentially KO. And I think if neither of those happen, she's just going to cruise her way to a decision. So Gillian Robertson it is. Next fight on the card is Bobby Green taking on Lance Gibson Jr. This is short notice. I understand that. 4 days notice for Lance Gibson Jr. However, in 2025, it is nearly impossible to take Bobby Green. It's really, really hard. He has no chin. He has no power in his hands. All he does is throw volume, and hopefully he can just out-cardio you to either a decision or a late-round KO. Against a guy like Lance Gibson Jr., who's going to be 9 years younger, who actually has high-level experience going 5-1 at Bellator, I don't know if that's going to work. Lance Gibson Jr. also shoots for takedowns a lot. He's very bouncy and quick on the feet. He seems to have more power than Bobby Green. I'm not really sure Bobby Green's path to victory here is other than a volume-based decision, which I don't think is going to work against a guy like Lance Gibson Jr., who's looked pretty good on the regional scene. So for those reasons, I'm going with Lance Gibson Jr., underdog, to win by submission. I think he's going to wrestle Bobby Green early and often. It is short notice, so that is concerning that he's going to have a wrestling mindset. He could gas out and Bobby Green gets the late-round finish, but considering, like I said, for Gillian, it is in a smaller cage, more advantageous for the grappler. I think Lance Gibson gets this fight to the mat, and I think he simply submits Bobby Green. It is concerning that Lance Gibson's only loss is a KO, and it was from a jab, but I don't think Bobby Green has the ability to KO Lance Gibson in this matchup. So give me Lance. Next fight on the card is Kennedy Nzechukwu taking on Marcus Bucheca. Classic striker versus grappler in this matchup. You might instantly take Bucheca because Kennedy in his last fight got submitted by Walter Walker. So you might think, well, why can't Bucheca just go out there and just do what Walter Walker did and submit Kennedy Nzechukwu? Well, I will say, Walter Walker's just a heel hook monster. He'll just dive on the leg. Marcus Bucheca isn't that type of grappler. He's a good grappler, but he's not really a good wrestler, which is very concerning at the MMA level. We saw him get exposed by Martin Buday. He went 1 for 11 on takedown attempts against a guy like Kennedy, who's going to be 3 inches taller, 7 inches longer, throws with more volume, throws with more power, has a pretty good takedown defense to his name, has the UFC experience. I'm not really sure how Bucheca wins. Obviously, if Bucheca gets the takedown early, he is live for a sub in round 1. But if he's not finishing the fight in round 1, Bucheca's gas tank is going to go out the window. And I think once that happens, Kennedy can either get a late round KO, he's got the power to do so, or Kennedy will just simply win by decision, just by not getting taken down and just by simply throwing more volume on the feet. So for those reasons, we're going to be going with Kennedy Nzechukwu to win this fight by decision. Minus 125. That is a pretty good line. That's a pretty wagerable line, I might say. I'm not going to be super confident that Kennedy wins. Like I said, there's a very real possibility Marcus just submits him in round 1. But if that doesn't happen, every other path to victory is available for Mr. Nzechukwu. Next fight on the card is Morgan Charriere taking on Melquizael Costa. Melky Costa, 2 inches taller, 2 inches longer. He's on a 4-fight winning streak. All those reasons, that might be enough to just take Melky Costa against anyone outside of the featherweight rankings. But I will say this, notoriously, what do we know about each of these fighters? Morgan Charriere almost always loses round 1. Okay. Melky Costa nearly has almost always lost round 3. Morgan Charriere has almost always won round 3. So this fight is basically just who wins round 2. That's what this fight comes down to. I think round 1, Melky Costa might have success with some takedowns. He might outland Morgan on the feet and win the first round. In round 2, I think Morgan Charriere, turns it up a little bit, mixes in a takedown. Melky Costa, 58% takedown defense. If Morgan Charriere actually gets him to the ground, I think he can land some ground and pound. Then if round 3 starts, I think Morgan Charriere can land a big shot on Melky Costa. He has the power to knock him out, I believe. He is 5-10 to the decision. That is concerning. But if it goes the way I'm thinking, which is round 1 Melky, round 2 Morgan, round 3 Morgan Charriere should win by decision. I think he has the finishing upside. I don't think Melky Costa can finish Morgan. So all the finishing upside goes to Morgan. And round 3, more than often, goes to Morgan as well. So if he could just win one of the first 2 rounds, I think Morgan can win this fight. Next fight on the card is Cesar Almeida taking on Cezary Oleksiejczuk. Cezary Oleksiejczuk. He's going to be 12 years younger, 2 inches taller, 2 inches longer, 4-fight winning streak. He's got big power in the hands to knock out a guy like Cesar Almeida. He throws with more volume than Cesar Almeida, and he's also never been knocked out. How does Cesar Almeida win this fight? I don't know. Cesar Almeida would have to mix in takedowns. He's done that before, but he's not really a takedown guy. He's a former Glory kickboxer. Cesar Almeida, can he potentially chin Cezary? Yes, but Cezary's just never been chinned in an MMA octagon, so I don't see that path either. Cesar Almeida also, he nearly got chinned by Abdul Razak Al Hassan. He also should have lost to Ihor Potieria in a fight where he landed 1,000 eye pokes. Maybe Cesar Almeida can win this fight by cheating. That is a possibility. But outside of cheating, I'm not really sure how Cezary loses this. He's one of my more confident picks on the card. I would only really pick against Cezary if Cesar had a takedown upside, which he kind of does, but not really. So I'm going with Cezary Oleksiejczuk to win this fight by round 1 KO. I think as soon as these guys meet in the middle, they're going to start throwing, and Cezary is going to land something that knocks out Cesar. It's that simple. Next fight on the card is Giga Chikadze taking on Kevin Vallejos. Giga Chikadze, 5 inches taller, 6 inches longer, on a 2-fight losing streak, so you know he needs to win this fight or he's going to get cut from the UFC. However, nowadays, it's nearly impossible to take Giga Chikadze. Why? Well, number 1, there's no takedown upside whatsoever. He's very one-dimensional. He's only a striker. Number 2, he doesn't really land with much power anymore. He's more of a volume guy. In the old days, Giga Chikadze, he had the Giga kick. You know, he might land something big on you to, you know, potentially knock you out. That's not happening recently. And number 3, I said Giga's a volume guy. That's not even true. Vallejos is going to throw with double the volume in this matchup. So how does Giga win exactly? Just by being bigger? I'm not really sure how he wins. Kevin Vallejos, he has the ability to mix in takedowns. He's 13 years younger, and he's on a 5-fight winning streak with his only loss being to Gene Silva, who's currently in the featherweight ranking. So, not really sure how Giga wins. He does have the UFC experience upside, but he gets taken down at will. Rounds swing against him because something big gets landed on him, and he can't land something big back. So for all those reasons, I'm going with Kevin Vallejos to win this fight by decision. Another pretty confident pick on the card. I just don't really see a path for Giga. I mean, the odds are pretty big, but I just don't see how Giga wins. And the main event of the evening, Brandon Royval taking on Manel Kape. Brandon Royval, he might look very good early. He's going to throw a lot more volume. He's going to throw just constantly. Constantly throwing. He's a raw dogger. He just goes out there and raw dogs it. He's just going to throw with no regard for his own safety. He's got a 43% striking defense, and against a guy like Manel Kape, I think at some point that's going to catch up to you. Manel Kape is one of the few flyweights that actually has KO power. I mean, you look at his chest. I'm not going to say nothing, but the guy is clearly enhanced. All right, he's got a saggy pec. Not going to say nothing, but Manel Kape simply has the ability to knock out people in this division. Brandon Royval does not. The finishing upside here is all in favor of Manel Kape. However, Manel Kape, sometimes he just likes to stand there. Stands there and aura farms. He just, you know what I mean? He does one of those. He dances around, throws a kick. I will say Manel Kape has only really struggled against guys that want to take him down, like Muhammad Makayev, Pantoja. Those are really his only losses. Mateus Nicolau took him down twice. Can Brandon Royval do that? Kind of. Not really. He mixes in some takedowns, not a lot. So if that's going to be the way he wins, I don't think that's a path. And if that's not a path, I don't really know how Manel Kape loses. So I'm going to go with Manel Kape by KO. Also, keep in mind, Royval just went to war with Josh Van 6 months ago, and he got dropped multiple times, nearly knocked out cold. So taking all that damage 6 months ago compared to a guy like Manel Kape, who fought, I think, over a year ago, took almost no damage in that fight. Manel Kape's going to be the fresher fighter. He's going to be the fighter that has taken less damage. He's going to be the fighter that throws with more power. I'm taking Manel Kape by round 2 KO. And here are my most confident takes on the card. If you've been paying attention, these have been slapping at an extraordinarily high rate. Let's get it. There's only 2 takes on this card, which I'm super confident in. It is an Apex card, so more often than not, Apex cards have a lot of shenanigans. Let's try to avoid the shenanigans with Cezary Oleksiejczuk moneyline. Don't really see a path to victory for Cesar Almeida. Cezary is the up-and-coming fighter. He's going to be way younger. He should win. Kevin Vallejos moneyline. Almost the same exact reasoning and logic for Cezary. He's going to be way younger, and I just don't see a path to victory for Giga against a guy like Vallejos who can mix in takedowns on him and throws with more volume. And my sneaky takes of the card. This is basically every underdog that I have selected over the course of this video. So let's get into it, starting with Neil Magny moneyline. Listen, Yaroslav's making his UFC debut. I'm not impressed by his striking, so if he's going to try to submit Magny, I think he's going to gas out, and Magny gets the late round finish or even wins by decision. Lance Gibson Jr. moneyline. He's got Bellator experience. Bobby Green's got no chin. It is on short notice, but I don't know if that's going to matter. I think Lance Gibson's actually pretty good. We also got Isaac Thomson moneyline. I don't think Joanderson Brito is all that good. I think if he does not find the finish in round 1 via KO or sub, this fight is going to go in Thompson's favor as the fight progresses. It is on short notice, so that does concern me that the path to victory for Thomson is to try to out-cardio Brito. If this was full fight camp, I'd be more confident, but I still think Thomson has a very viable path to victory. And we got Morgan Charriere moneyline. I think he can mix in takedowns, which Costa notoriously is not good at defending. I think he throws with more power than Costa to potentially swing around in his favor. And I think all the finishing upside in that matchup goes to Morgan. So, liking all these sneaky takes. Let me know in the comments who your favorite underdog of the week is. I'll shout you out in next week's video if you get it correct. Leave a like for the algorithm. Subscribe. Hit the notification. We only have one more video to go this year. So thank you guys for watching, getting to this part. Appreciate all you guys. And I'll see you Friday.